third grade, do you remember just a couple of days ago, remember when we were starting to learn to kind of get on the pony that we were going to learn with our measures? Remember, we used to have our measurement problem that would say 3 feet blank yards underneath. And then we would do our 1, 2, 3 and all of that. Well, remember what I told you. As we are learning these things, we start off on the low, and then we start to learn how to ride the bigger until we finally get to master the big horse. Well, we are on that medium-sized pony right now. We graduated from the beginner pony. Now we're at the medium-sized pony. And I want you to think and look carefully, because some things you might recognize which are going to help you when you think back when we were on that beginner pony level, okay? So we have our measures here, but as you look at our measures, you see an equal sign in between. That means this is now a mathematical equation, because remember, a mathematical equation it has an equal sign in the middle between two parts of it. So when we read our mathematical equation, this mathematical sentence says 6 yards equals blank feet. Now, when we are looking at this is a little bit different from what we had before, because we just had this and then we had something written underneath it and we did our 1, 2, 3 and we were done. But this isn't any harder, and we'll find out exactly why. So we read our mathematical sentence going across. When we read it going across, we need to find out what's missing. What is not being told, okay? So if you're a good detective, you'll be able to see that. I look and I have 6 yards equals, my feet are missing. Now, not my real ones, they're here, okay? I still have my real ones. But these feet are missing. I don't know how many there are, or I don't know a number or what it's supposed to be. 6 yards equals blank feet. Well, when I find what is missing, being a good detective, I take what I know is not right, it's missing, and I write it in my handy dandy notebook. I know. So my handy dandy notebook just so happens to be underneath blank feet, because that's what's blank, and we have to write our equal sign, because in a mathematical sentence, that's what has to be. There has to be an equal sign between the two sides, okay? So blank feet equals, and then we write the same clue that's missing. Blank feet. We don't change it. This is just written underneath 2 times. So blank feet equals blank feet. Now, some of you, I know that you're already right there with me. You already recognize that something looks similar to when we were riding the little bitty pony. When we were riding the little bitty pony, didn't it kind of look like this? So now we're going to do our steps to our measurement equations. The first step in a measurement equation is to box the different units. So units are our units of measure. We have a unit of measure that's a yard. We have a unit of measure that's a foot. Now, when we look at our mathematical equation, are these two different? I don't think so, because they look the same. They're the same. But let's look at this side. Are these two sides different? Yes, yard and feet are not the same thing. So we box, like number 1 says, box the different units. So I'm going to put a box around 6 yards blank feet. Now the rest of you are finally seeing it, aren't you? This looks like what we did when we were riding on that, learning to get on that little bitty pony. 6 yards blank feet, and what did we do? Aha, yes. Some of you, 1, 2, 3. Right away, you knew. 1, 2, 3 goes underneath. Now, remember, after we write that 1, 2, 3, the next thing we need to do, after we box the different units, we decide which process we're going to use. How do we figure out which process we're going to use? We start on the top and go to the bottom, just like we do always with arithmetic, top to bottom, yards to feet. Our yards to, wait for me to finish. Don't do it before. Our yards to feet, larger to smaller, multiply, or smaller to larger, divide. Well, let's get our little helpers to find out. Yards to feet. Is it larger to smaller or smaller to larger? Obviously, this is larger, this is smaller, so from yards to feet, it's larger to smaller, there we go, multiply, right? So that's why we do our hand signals. Do it with me. Larger to smaller, multiply. So we multiply, we put our multiplication sign. We're going to multiply whatever the numbers are. Number 2, we have to find our special number, just like we did earlier. We put an S here for special, and then we have to figure out for our special number how many of the smaller are in the larger. So that's our next step that we find here. Find the special number. So how many feet are in 1 yard? And remember, I have taken this thing several times, put it on the ground, and I've walked it. How many steps did it take for me to walk that yardstick? It took me 3 steps because there are 3 feet in 1 yard. How many feet in 1 yard? 3 feet in 1 yard. So our special number is 3. And we circle it because it's so special. Now, we always take the bigger number. What's the bigger number? 6. And we do what number 1 says. What does number 1 say? Multiply. And then we go and take our smaller number to multiply with, which means we take our 3 next. So that's the last step. Solve the problem. So they did it here because they had 15 feet equals blank yards equals blank yards. They had to decide, is it larger to smaller or smaller to larger? Well, this time it went from feet to yards. So it went from smaller to larger, so they had to divide. The number 2, the special number, it's going to be the same because how many feet are in 1 yard? It's going to be 3. And this time they had to take the bigger number, 15, do what number 1 says, divide by the smaller number, 3, and they got the answer, 5, and they put it in all the blanks, which we're going to get to in a second. But we take 6 times my 3. And what is 6 times 3? Yes, we know that that is 18. Once I get my answer there, guess what I have to do? Just like you saw. Put it in the box. Well, guess what 18 feet is equal to in feet? Well, 18 feet is going to equal, same, 18 feet. That's obvious. Then we write it in the next box because all of our feet we know are supposed to be 18. So we just put it in all of the blanks. So 6 yards is equal to 18 feet, which makes sense because if I have 6 of these, you know it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. If I'm walking all of those 6 yards, it's going to be 3 steps per yard. 6 times 3 equals 18. So 6 yards equals 18 feet. Super simple, right? Not hard at all. Well, let's look at another one. and see if we can get this. Now, I know you look at this and you're like, 14 days equals blank weeks. I already know the answer. I'm going to just write it in there. No. Because when we get onto the bigger horse, we need to know the proper way of getting onto the pony. If I just hop onto the pony, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. So we learned how to get onto the little horse, the little pony, the beginner one. Now we're on the medium size. We need to learn how to adjust all of that to get safely and be able to move on with that one before we can learn how to get to the bigger one. So you have to do the steps. Follow the steps. We have our mathematical equation with the equal sign in the middle. When we have that equation with the equal sign in the middle, we have to read it. 14 days equals, my weeks are missing. I don't know my number of weeks. So what I have to do is take what's missing, write it in my handy dandy notebook underneath the problem with the equal sign in the middle. Blank weeks. And you don't want to write it huge because you're never going to fit it. So write it neatly and small. Equals blank weeks. See how they can fit right underneath each other if we're neat and writing properly. Blank weeks equals blank weeks. Then we have to do the first step, which is box the different ones. Box the different units. Well, what units are different? Week to week or days to weeks? Obviously, days and weeks are different, so we're going to box that group. After you see that box, you're going to think automatically, 1, 2, 3. Yes, underneath we write 1, 2, 3. When I do my 1, 2, 3, now I have to do the first step, which is to decide the process. What process am I going to use to figure this one out? I can't just use the same process every time. That's why I need to know from one to the other. Is it larger to smaller or smaller to larger? So days to weeks. Are days longer than weeks and weeks are smaller? So we would multiply. Or are days smaller and weeks longer? So we should divide. What would it be? You know it. Yes, smaller to larger, divide. So next to number 1, I write the division symbol. I write divide because that's what I'm going to do. Number 2 is our special number. Our special number is how many of the smaller are in one of the larger. How many days are in 1 week? How many days are in 1 week? 7. That's why we know it's smaller because it takes a lot more of those to equal one of the larger. 7 days in 1 week. So our special number is 7 and we circle it because it's so special. You're not going to be able to see the bottom. Oh, there it goes. I adjusted it a little bit. Hopefully my camera won't fall. We'll see. So now I'm going to take my larger of the two numbers, 14. Do what number 1 says. You can draw the house or you can draw the division symbol divided by my smaller number, which is 7. And then tell me what 14 divided by 7 equals. 14 divided by 7 equals 2. Right, 7, 14. So we put 2. Once I write 2 here, what do I do with it next? Oh yeah, I just write it in all of the blanks. 2, 2, and 2. So if I have 14 days, it equals 2 weeks. And all I had to do was to do what I did when I was getting ready to ride on that little pony. Do my 1, 2, 3 and figure it out. But because it's going across now I need to bring that underneath. So whatever is blank, that's what gets brought underneath. Don't write blank days equals blank weeks because then you won't have a side that where the two are different, okay? You have to write what is blank underneath twice. you have to write blank weeks equals blank weeks. Okay? So that one side is going to be different units, the other side is going to have the same units. 2 weeks equals 2 weeks, 14 days equals 2 weeks, 2 weeks equals 2 weeks this way, 14 days equals 2 weeks this way as well. Okay? That's all it is. So now you're ready to get on that medium-sized pony and ride off into the sunset beautifully. Okay? So when we are looking at our measures, this is what you are starting to do to get to your medium pony. And I hope that you're ready. So we're going to be practicing that some more so you can get familiar with it. But then we're going to learn some other cool stuff to get onto the horse. And it's really, really fun. But if you can get this down, getting on the horse, it's going to be a cinch. So look carefully. If you need to watch it again, watch it again. Watch every step and make sure you follow those. Do that and you'll be ready. Not yet. It's going to come soon for the bigger horse. All right. Good job paying attention. We'll see you next time.